for that man.
Has gotten soft, but that is the American way. That's the way it works.
This is the 6-6 game.
Jameson Williams, he's got it. Touchdown, Lions.
Okay, super frustrating. I get it when it comes to the Tigers. Super encouraged when it comes to the Lions, and I understand that too. Welcome, everybody, on a Tullymore Thursday. We're glad you're with us here on X's and Bros. I'm Matt Shepard. Brett Hayes is along with us today, and we appreciate him joining us because he's working double duty, also working the huge show a little bit later on at 3 o'clock. Coming up on our program, 6:35, my conversation with Isaac Tesla. I was out at Lions camp yesterday. What a really good dude, and hoping for better things this weekend compared to last weekend and overall. So his thoughts on growing up in West Michigan and a few other things that we will discuss. And then, of course, at 8:35, we continue our trip around the Big Ten, previewing Big Ten teams. And that is Zach Osterman, who writes for the Indianapolis Star. He will join us at 8:35. Now, the Tigers lose 4-3 to the Pirates. And anytime you lose a close game like that and you blow a 3-2 lead in the ninth and you do it with your closer, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt no matter what. And it's going to have people not even speculating, just believing that your bullpen's not good enough, which I understand. I don't know how you can defend the bullpen, especially Kenley Jansen, who has 5 blown saves on the year. He gave up 2 solo homers. I would remind you, not that this is defending him by any stretch, he hadn't given up a home run in 14 appearances. That doesn't matter to you. He gave up 2 home runs. Rafael Flores hit the game-tying home run, and it was an 0-2 pitch. So Kenley Jansen throws 3 pitches, but he throws primarily cutter. And if you're a hitter, you're going to step into the box expecting cutting. This one did not cut. Okay? Pretty straight. I don't care who you are. As a major league hitter, you could bring Jody Mercer out of retirement. They're going to hit that. Okay? Especially when it's in the mid-90s. So that leaves the yard. And then Brandon Lau. And Brandon Lau is not considered, a home run hitting type of guy. You remember him from his Tampa days, I'm sure. Okay? He's a left-handed hitter. He doesn't have I remember seeing him in Tampa while I was calling Tigers baseball, seeing him going just as I arrived at the ballpark, he arrived at the ballpark. I'm like, wow, this dude's not big at all. But I recognize he's not big at all. He's my size. He's 5'9", 181 pounds. All right, I'm a little heavier than that. I'll be honest with you. But we're both about 5'9". Doesn't matter. That dude generates some power. Had 31 bombs last year. Had 21 the year before. Had 39 in 2021 with Tampa, which is, I think, when I saw him. He hit his 27th home run of the season. Who would have guessed? I didn't think he was considered and I still don't think, power hitter per se. But 27 bombs, would you take it? Especially from the second base position? Hell yeah. You and I both like Gleyber Torres. He's a good player, good offensive player, okay? Gleyber Torres has got 8 home runs. Now, he hasn't played as many games. I understand that. But 27 home runs, if I asked you, where would the 27 home runs from Brandon Lau rank with the Tigers? The answer to that is number 1. He's got 1 more than Dylan Dingler. You and I think Dylan Dingler's got good power. Then we've got to give it up for Brandon Lau. 19th blown lead after the 7th inning for Detroit. And here's where the frustrations lie with Tigers fans. I hope the Tigers front office, I hope management, I hope their ownership can understand why Tigers fans get so frustrated. You want to be a big believer in trading away 2 key starting arms, that's fine, okay? You know how I feel about that. I think trading Skubal was the right thing to do. Mize, okay, a little different feeling on that, okay? But I said at the time, if you're going to trade Skubal and you're going to trade Mize, you should trade Torres and you should trade Jensen. And Kenley Jansen could have brought you something. Now, he's got a team option for next year. The team option is $20 million, something along those lines. I got to look that up. Maybe not quite that high, but it's a team option that's going to cost you a little bit of a pretty penny. And then after that, it's a $2 million buyout. Okay. Anyway, which you have to do. I also said, if you're going to trade at least one of those starters, Skubal, which is what I think was the appropriate thing to do, add to your bullpen. You can do both. It's funny. There's a common saying, both can be true at the same time, right? People love to use that phrase. That's the phrase that appropriately fits what the Tigers could have done. You could have, two things can be true at the same time. You can trade Skubal and you can add to your bullpen. And it's amazing to me how sports is a business on just about every side of it, that you can't necessarily worry about feelings. And yet it feels to me, don't know this for a fact, but it feels to me like the Tigers are worried about the feelings of Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen's a closer. Okay. He's top 5 all time in saves. Okay. So we all lose it, man. At some point or another, you lose it. Because Father Time is undefeated. Kenley Jansen doesn't have it. And he's proven that to you this season. He is an unreliable guy. He doesn't lead the league in blown saves. Tigers don't even lead the league in blown saves, quite honestly. You know who does? Washington. That doesn't have any, there's no consolation for you for that at all. I'm not asking you to have any consolation. You and I should not be asking our team, quote unquote, to be the equivalent to the Washington Nationals, who, by the way, I might add, Detroit is 61-66. Washington Nationals are 61-67. So they're a half game worse than the Tigers. So before you get going on, oh my God, I can't believe we're being compared to fill in the blank. How do you think other teams feel like being compared to you? I have tried to tell people I am not one of those guys who rides the wave. Oh my God, this team's going to make the playoffs because they've won 3 in a row. Oh my God, this team's lost 3 straight. They just lost a series to Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm done. They are cooked. Pittsburgh's got a better record than you, just so you know. We act like we are holier than thou. Oh, man, we should be going into Pittsburgh and beating Pittsburgh. You don't know a damn thing about Pittsburgh. They've been better than you most of the year. Washington, the same thing. But because you've got Kevin McGonigal and Dylan Dingler, you think, oh, my gosh, we should be better than they are. But the bottom line is, I don't ride that wave. I expected this team to win the division. It's hard to dig out a 6 for 22 May. But at some point, you got to look at the team and say, okay, even if they're still in it. You and I both know that. They're only 1.5 back of the wild card. Hardly anything has changed from yesterday or 2 days ago you're feeling to now. All right, okay. But you have to understand what you're watching, too. Are they a threat? No. But, folks, they haven't been for most of the year. You can jump on board at the June 1. That's great. And they still have a decent record since June 1. But if you want to use your eyes, everyone always says on the eye test, use your eyes and ask yourself, is this complete team, not just the starting pitching, not McGonigal, not Dingler, are they good enough? The answer has always been no. Phone number on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. This is X's and Bros, and we're brought to you by Mitch Lyonswell.
Huge here for my good friend Josh Garvey and the team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. One of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms. Their worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. And Josh and his team connect with all the sports fans and businesses across Michigan. They bring you John Beeline on the Huge Show. They bring you Lomas Brown during the Lion season. They are a top shelf team when it comes to growth and understanding what their clients need. And mix in when we do the Beat Huge contests or the NCAA March Madness brackets. Thank you, Josh Garvey, for what you do for the Huge Show and the Michigan Sports Network. Simple and easy. Just find Dorn Mayhew on all the social networks or just Google Dorn Mayhew and find out how they can help your business. And again, a special thanks to Josh Garvey and the Dorn Mayhew team in West Michigan.
You know, we're fortunate here in Michigan. We have some of the greatest golf courses in the country. Tullymore and St. Ives is part of the reason we can brag the way we do about our golf. Once you visit Tullymore, you'll keep coming back. The view is breathtaking. The golf is fantastic. The accommodations are regal, and the people are special. It really does feel like a home away from home at Tullymore. Make your play and stay reservations today by going to tullymoregolf.com or by calling 1-800-972-4837. That's 1-800-972-4837.
Coming up later today at 3 on the Huge Show in the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Day 18 after the hour. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. You can join us in the chat. We always appreciate comments there as we stream live on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000, but you can also listen to us as we broadcast live throughout the state on the great Michigan Sports Network, the same network that carries the huge show in the afternoon from 3 until 6. We're on a Cadillac, WKD. The Ticket, 93.7 FM. We're on at Grand Rapids that also serves Kalamazoo and Holland and that wonderful area on the west side of the state. WMAX 96.1 FM The Game. Midland, Saginaw Bay City. We are back on the MIT. Yeah, 100.9 FM WLUN. Petoskey, WMBN 104.7 FM, The Ticket, Northern Michigan. In Lansing, WVFN AM 7:30 AM The Game. And The Ticket, WKD 93.7 FM serves the beautiful city of Traverse City and those surrounding areas as well. The walk-off winner for Pittsburgh. Any more digestible than any of the others? Arizona, Chicago. Somebody brought up to me yesterday, it was that Baltimore game. This is worse than the Baltimore game. And I said, why is that? Or no, they said the Baltimore game is worse than this one. And I said, why is that? Baltimore, they were in fourth place. Baltimore, if you remember, it was July 29th, Colton Cowser with a base hit off Drew Summers to win it 10-9. Do you remember that? Okay. I'm not sure if you do, but Detroit was 6 games back at the time. This one you would think is worse considering the situation they were in. They're only a game and a half back. How is this one worse than the one against Chicago where they walked it off and Detroit was a strikeout away, or a strike away, I should say, from finishing that? It's because we're seeing it more often. The other thing I looked at was, you bang out, this is a team that the offense had been really kind of humming along. 7 hits, I guess, in a start where Paul Skeens is pitching for Pittsburgh. Maybe you think that might be enough. Skeens obviously didn't last the entire game. He went 4 1/3. You only had 4 hits off him. You got 3 runs off him. It's not like 3 runs is a ton of runs, guys. So we can blame the bullpen, and they should be blamed. Kenley Jansen should own this loss because he gave up 2 gopher balls that allowed Pittsburgh to walk it off when your team had a 1-run lead. You could not secure, after leading your team with a 1-run lead, having 1 out in the 9th inning and having an 0-2 count on Flores. But it's not like your offense was carrying this team. Had chances to add to your lead. You left 7 men on base. You had chances to add to your lead. You went 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The easy thing to do, the layup, the low-hanging fruit, is I'm blaming Kenley Jansen. And he should deserve some of the blame. But your offense has got to be better too. You can't go 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position and feel like, you know what, we're going to be just fine. So bottom line, though, is that Detroit is still not out of it. It just hurts your confidence in them. And I think that confidence has been waning for a while. It's just been masked sometimes by those of you who feel like the league isn't very good. And it's not. Those of you who feel like the division's not very good. And it's not. But what you failed to recognize during that stretch of saying the league's not very good because you're sold on one team, Tampa, maybe. And we are very unfamiliar with Tampa. They got 76 wins. It's pretty impressive stuff. All right. They've got more than Atlanta. I don't know if people realize that. Who has more wins, the Dodgers or Tampa? Well, the answer is the Dodgers by 1. Okay. No one's got more wins than Milwaukee. You just don't believe. You don't believe that Milwaukee can win the National League because they had the same situation a year ago and couldn't get the job done. You don't believe Tampa can win the American League because they've had similar situations in the past and they couldn't get the job done, although they did get to the World Series. So the Tigers are 5.5 back, tied with Cleveland for third in the division. 5.5 back of Chicago, who just shut off the Cubs 3-0. That's the reason Detroit is 5.5 back. Therein lies our issue. Our issue is believability. What was it during the season that made you believe anyway? Like, I like Jackson Jobe. If you've listened to the show long enough, you know that Jackson Jobe is a guy I feel like is a top rotation guy. I think he's got the best stuff on the team. My expectation, fair or unfair, I don't care what you think about how I believe in it. He's a 24-year-old. I know he's coming off Tommy John, so on and so forth. I want him to go longer than 5 1/3. You know, at some point, people are going to stop babying players. I don't know when that is. He was pulled after 86 pitches. He gave up 1 run and 4 hits. Okay? Now, he struggled a little bit with his command with 3 walks, but that's what happened. It's crazy what baseball has turned into. He has not been in that great groove. I mean, I think he had first pitch strikes to 11 of the 22 hitters he faced. So that's a problem too. But I want him to go deeper. Meanwhile, by the way, at West Michigan, Bryce Rayner homered again. His 5th straight game to go yard. That's a new Whitecaps record. He has 15 homers in West Michigan. He has 16 homers on the year because he played some time in Lakeland. I wonder if he'll get to Erie. He's batting about 272 or so. I wonder if he gets to Erie before the season is over. Because we're running out of time. We're talking about August 20th here. All right? Lions putting the final touches on their lone home preseason game that kicks off Saturday against Washington. Derek Moore had a big day of practice. And Jamison Williams is back on the field as well. 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Vita Vea and the Buccaneers have reached an agreement on a 1-year extension for $30 million. That will keep him in Tampa for the next 2 seasons. He gets $6 million in new money this year. Here's our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question of the day. Which option would you commit to? This is not easy. Which option would you commit to? Keeping Dylan Larkin, so second straight day where we have had we've had a poll question associated with Dylan Larkin. Which one would you commit to? Keep Dylan Larkin, extend Jalen Duren on a max contract, or pick up the team option on Kenley Jansen. Sorry. One of those 3 you've got to commit to. What would it be? We'll get your thoughts via Twitter, at XB Mornings, at Shep Matt, and we'll give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. We had mentioned the Tigers and the 19 games when leading after the 7th inning or later, in the 7th inning or later. They have 28 blown saves. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, that is not worst in Major League Baseball. Washington is worse. I think they have 32 blown saves. That said, CBS Sports came out with the contenders of the teams that aren't very good this year. They titled it, which MLB's worst 2026 teams can turn it around for 2027. If you think your team is all that, they wouldn't even be on this list, even if they're not in first place. CBS Sports considers the Tigers one of the worst teams in baseball. I would say no to that, but still, here's what they say. In 2026, they are contenders. Teams contending, but they're really not good teams. Baltimore, for example, Texas, for example, Minnesota, Toronto, Cleveland, and Detroit. Not really contenders. Their contention chances on a scale of 1 to 10, 9 for next year, which tells you something. They're the highest of any of the teams that are considered not good enough. Do you take solace in that? I sure as hell don't. I think it's ridiculous that people would say, hey, but this is what we have to look forward to. And the reason I say that is because Toronto was close to winning a world championship a year ago, and they are on this list. Baltimore was on this list, and a few years ago, they won 103 games or over 100 games. Forget exactly what it was. But either way, they won the AL East. Stunned everybody with their young core. This is why you have to take advantage of it when you can. When we come back, we take advantage of the opportunity to talk with Isaac Tesla, the Lions wide receiver. Joins us on X's and Bros after this, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Summer's freshest flavors and unbeatable value are waiting for you at Meijer. Enjoy juicy red seedless grapes for just $1.99 a pound. Fire up the grill with fresh from Meijer boneless pork loin chops. Buy one, get one for $1. Locally grown blueberries are plump with summer sweetness and are only $3.99 a pint. And crisp, colorful green bell peppers are just 79 cents each. From backyard cookouts to weeknight dinners, you can always count on Meijer for good life quality at real low prices. Exclusions apply. See the Meijer app for details.
September 11th at Soaring Eagle, a hot night of soul.
Somebody sexy, tell them hey.
Three-time Grammy winner Neo and the princess of hip-hop, Keisha Cole. Tickets start at $53 and are on sale now at the Soaring Eagle box office or etix.com. Music that takes you there. Neo and Keisha, September 11th, part of the Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org. Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Hi, welcome back. X's and BrO's, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 throughout the great state of Michigan. Isaac Tisla is ready to make an impact for this Detroit Lions team, and he joins us. Tell me a little bit about the acceleration of collegiate training camps to professional training camps, first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Man, I'd say just everyone is faster and more physical. Everything is just at a different speed out here, and you got to be on your stuff. You got to know what you're doing, because you can't come out here without knowing your stuff, because then you're thinking, and if you're not thinking, you're not playing fast. So you got to know your stuff, and then from there, just go out there and play ball.
How about the transition from year one as a rookie to year two now?
Yeah, I'd say it's just like comfortability and confidence. I got a year under my belt. Obviously, I still got a lot of growth to do and a lot of learning, but just the fact that I'm a little more comfortable in this offense and my role and like what I need to do, it makes me think less, like I said.
Some people think like you've struggled a little bit in training camp. I watched you on Sunday. I thought you were outstanding. What is it like to have a short memory as a wide receiver if you're struggling a little bit, maybe from one game to another or from one practice to another?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it goes in football. Not every day is going to be perfect. You're going to lose some reps, but you can't let that affect your mind or your mentality going into the next rep or the next day or, the next week even. You just got to be able to flush those things and rely on what your game is and what you've been able to do your entire career. I mean, everyone's out here for a reason. It's not by chance that these guys are out here playing. So just, flush the last play, the last whatever it is, and just move on and keep putting your best forward.
What do you like about your wide receiver room?
Everything, man. I feel like we got a group of good guys, obviously great football players, but just the way that St. Brown and J-Mo, just kind of all the guys collectively lead. We have a standard in the room. And I mean, if you watched practice 2 days ago and just the way that Saint is out there, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a run play, he's going to go crack a safety. And I mean, he's like one of our most valuable guys on offense. And he's just going out there and putting his freaking life on the line every single play. It doesn't matter if it's run or pass. Obviously in the pass game, he's going to make every catch that comes his way. So just to have people in our room that are willing to do that, it just makes everyone in the room go even harder.
Could you ever imagine being in this situation after starting your career at Hillsdale? A friend of mine his son played with you, Joey Royer. I don't know if you remember him. Yeah, so, and gave me a heads up, actually. He said, I'm telling you, man, Joey's playing with a guy right now who is an absolute stud. But could you ever imagine this ascent to you? Ascend?
Yeah, I mean, imagine, I think, is a great word. It's a dream. I was going to work for it. Did I know if it was going to become reality? Absolutely not. But was I going to work my butt off in order to have that opportunity? Absolutely. And I think I had that attitude going into practice. Obviously, at the D2 level, things are different, and guys aren't necessarily. Not everyone has the goal of making to the NFL, but that was always my goal. And I remember after one of my games, my second year at Hillsdale, one of the other coaches pulled me aside and said, if you keep grinding, you have potential to make it to the league. And that was just, wind in my sails, because you don't know out there what the future is going to hold. So just the fact that someone was willing to uplift me in that way, that kind of gave me a boost of confidence. I remember that.
How good can this offense be?
Best in the league. I mean, that's our goal and that's our standard.
What do you like to do in the off season? I mean, do you go back to the west side of the state? Do you enjoy fishing, hunting, golfing? What is it that Isaac Tisla does to unwind and kind of decompress?
Yeah. Fishing, golf. Golf is the biggest one. I went fishing once back home. I got any friends with a boat or anything, so I ended up chartering, did a little salmon.
You should be able to buy one by now, don't you think?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the goal someday. But I heard the best day of the boat is the day you buy and the day you sell it. So I'll hold off until I'm a little bit older to get a boat. But fishing, I love golfing. Golfing is definitely one of my passions. And then just hanging out with the family back home. We play a lot of card games, board games, watch TV. I always sit down with my parents, watch Seinfeld. Settlers of Catan is a big board game we like to play. So I'm always just hanging out with the family, friends, whoever's in the area.
Love watching Seinfeld, man. Seinfeld's unbelievable,
my parents just went and saw Jerry Seinfeld at the new amphitheater in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I saw him too. He's fantastic, and he's clean, but believe it or not.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I played, we've played a lot of different courses on the west side of the state. I know, obviously, you have. Yeah. Do you have a favorite? I'm Tullamore St. Ives is a big sponsor of ours. Crystal Mountain is a big sponsor of ours. What is the course that you could take your buddies out to and play just about on a regular basis?
It really depends. I mean, if I'm really looking to like have something real nice, I go to the American Dunes every 4th of July. So that's probably my favorite. I love going to Pilgrim's Run. That's one of my favorites. I mean, there's just like 20 different public courses I can go to on the west side within like half hour. I mean, that are just, great courses. So I mean, I'm spoiled over there in the amount of places I can go out and golf.
Played Watermark about a month and a half ago. That wasn't bad either.
Part of that.
Who would be the ultimate foursome for you? If you could put together the best foursome you could possibly think, what would it be?
It'd be me. It'd be Hogan Hatton, Jack Fox, and Aiden Hutchinson.
Wow. Have you played on Aiden's channel yet?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, it was me.
And is he better than people think?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we have like a little team 4-man scramble that we do every year. And it was me, him, Saint, and Vontae. And Hutch was our ringer, man. He was like, if we all screwed up, we were just relying on Hutch, and he hit one every time. He's a real good golfer.
I think Hogan Hatton's underrated, man. I did a little shoot with him. Sure. He's pretty damn good, and he's a great dude, isn't he?
Awesome. He is the most, like, if anyone's going to end up on TV or radio, it's going to be that guy. That guy just has a personality for it.
Last thing, what's the biggest fish you caught, and what lake are you kind of angling out on West Michigan side?
I've chartered one time, and I caught a king salmon. It wasn't huge for a king salmon, but it was big for a salmon in terms of the king salmon variety. But I prefer saltwater fishing. I don't do it as much. Okay. I trained down in Fort Myers for a little bit, and my family took a vacation down somewhere on the East Coast or whatever the coast side is. I caught a sailfish. That was a lot of fun last year.
I know people in the West Michigan are really proud of you. It's great to have you as a Lion. Thanks for the time today. We appreciate it. Stay healthy, will you?
Will do. Appreciate it, Matt.
It's Isaac Tesla here on X's and BrO's.
Good stuff there from the wide receiver who has high expectations, and rightfully so, for this team, is the number 3 guy. Big, strong, fast, really good hands, but didn't show it in the first game, right? It's a preseason game. You get through it. That's why I asked him about the short memory, which is really important, and his confidence and his comfortability, as he mentioned, pretty important. Probably my favorite answer is, well, there's 2 of them. First of all, loves the wide receiver room. And what I took out of that is that, he immediately brought up Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is easy to do because he's the best wide receiver on the team. But his work ethic. When we have discussions about young players, it doesn't matter what sport, all right? It doesn't have to be football. When you have young players recognizing great veterans, older players, even though I would call Amon-Ra St. Brown a young veteran, but he's played a lot of snaps. He's played a lot of games. When you have young players seeing what they're all about and recognizing the importance of work ethic in practice, easy to do it in a game, except for DJ Moore last year for Chicago. Easy to do it in a game. What about practice? I know it's not something that Allen Iverson necessarily embraced, but the Lions have done that. I was at practice yesterday, obviously, and the thing that really stands out is, how this team practices, how they get after it on a regular basis. The other thing that really impressed me, or was kind of stood out to me from the interview with Isaac Tesla, is that the goal and the standard is that the Lions are the best offense in the league. Now, you may roll your eyes. You may say, duh. You may think that every team should feel that way, but also teams also recognize their deficiencies, right? Lions deficiency a year ago, offensive line. They are, as we mentioned yesterday, much more well-equipped to deal with injuries or ejections or, some type of replenishing of a player who might have to go into the blue tent for a moment before the doctors realize, well, we brought him in, we didn't need to. How do you handle those 2 snaps, right? Offensively or defensively? That's the thing that, I think we've started to recognize with this team. We all want superstars at every position. And I try to remind people regularly that that's just not the case. And you can look at the best team in football. You could look at the best team in baseball. Look at the Dodgers. I mean, they're used as the example of the best team in baseball. Do you think they have a superstar at second base or a catcher? Now, I like Will Smith, but when he's hurt, Miguel Rojas is their second baseman. Okay. Ben Rortvedt started for them last night. All right. So it's not like they've got more superstars than anybody else, but it's not like you have one at every single position. And it's the same thing, I would guess, in football. Who do you think is the best team in the National Football League going into the season? I think most people would probably say the Rams. Okay. I know Seattle is the defending champion, but the Rams, do the Rams have a superstar tight end? And they use tight ends a lot. Colby Parkinson's a good player. Tyler Higbee's a good player. Terrence Ferguson's a good player. Are they superstars? Probably not. Who's their center? Is he a superstar? I don't think Coleman Shelton is a superstar for the Rams by any stretch. All right. You could argue that perhaps Omar Spates and Nate Landman are not superstar linebackers. They're good players. But we all want that, right? You're not going to get that. No team gets that. You don't build super teams. This is not the dream team in the Olympics. So it's a lot more challenging than that. How do you do that? You've got to get guys who are really good at their role, really good at what they do, not afraid to accept that and embrace it. And then you need depth. And the Lions have built more depth. And I think it's been blatantly obvious so far. So Tesla, really good dude. Let's see here. Via text. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. You can call us on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. Shep, meanwhile, A.J. Hinch skates in this town because, again, he speaks well, calm in the public eye, and has a fake World Series. He keeps putting Jansen in the closer role. Why? Get off your computer and go with feel. Effing ridiculous. Well, I completely understand the frustration there. I guess here's what I would ask you. And I'm not going to defend this by any stretch because it's beyond frustrating for yours and you and me. All right. I'm with you on this. Who's the closer? If it's not Kenley Jansen, and I'm tired of it too, who should it be? I think closers need to command 2 pitches. Starters, I think 3. You need to command 2 pitches. There's an exception, Mariano Rivera, cutter. But overall, you have to command 2 pitchers. You better be able to throw it for a strike anytime you want, right? But you have to have strikeout stuff, I believe. If it's not Kenley Jansen, and I'm going to agree with you, who is it? And I know what you're probably saying right now. You're probably going, anybody. No, it's not anybody. Remember, Will Vest, Kyle Finnegan. We thought you had a pretty damn good setup. Vest, Finnegan, or Finnegan, Vest, then Jansen, right? Something along those lines. Vest is hurt. Finnegan struggled mightily. Jansen struggling. As bad a scenario as you could possibly. Do you want Tyler Holton coming in? Because earlier in the week, you were bitching about Tyler Holton, that he couldn't get the job done. Do you want Drew Summers? He's the guy you were bitching about in Baltimore, or against Baltimore, I should say. On July 29th, you guys were pissed that Drew Summers gave up the Colton Cowser RBI single in the 12th inning that led to a loss. An incredible comeback for Baltimore that I believe was down 8-0 at the time. So who's the reliable, and that's the important word here, who's the reliable arm you're going to bet on? You don't want Jansen coming out in the 9th inning? Fine. I get it. Edwin Diaz, just so you know, who just went on the 15-day IL, I believe, he was the closer for the Dodgers. They spent a crap load of money on him, and he has as many, if not more, blown saves. He's got more blown saves than Kenley Jansen. And that shouldn't matter to you. I'm just giving you an example of what we think is super easy, and really it's not. And again, what happens is when you come across that way, what you end up doing is you end up saying, well, you're making excuses for Kenley Jansen. And I'm not, because it's old and I'm tired of it. And I don't trust it either. But who is it you would like? You want Mason Miller. I don't blame you. Mason Miller's an absolute badass. 100%. Has a 16.3 strikeout per 9. That's what makes him, and most good closers, really good. The ability to strike guys out. Andres Munoz in Seattle. He's got a 14 strikeout per 9. All right? Pete Fairbanks, now in Miami, used to be in Tampa. He's got a 12.7 strikeout per 9. How much is enough? It's got to be up there. Kenley Jansen's strikeout per 9 is 10.5. But he misses too often. And I understand it 100%. Okay? I just don't think you have another choice, unfortunately. And there is that tough decision as a manager or a coach. How long do you give a player? How long do you give a veteran who's done it forever? There is, whether you feel like it or not, it's true. There is a different feel to pitching the 9th inning than any other inning. I've talked to a lot of different pitchers, past Dennis Eckersley, Shane Green, whomever, okay? Guys who have done it for a living. There is a difference between pitching the 7th or the 8th and the 9th. I'm not making excuses for Kenley Jansen. I would pull the trigger in a moment if you had another option. I just don't know who the other option is. That's the problem you have. And therein lies the issue with your front office. So the texter writes, AJ Skates, he keeps him in the closer role. Where else does AJ Hinch go? I would like to see, first of all, he's not on his iPad all the time. I mean, to use that as an example, he's front and center. I mean, are we going to say that about Max Clark? Max Clark's looking at the iPad with Michael Bradar, the hitting coach, when the pitcher he's about to face is literally warming up. And you're going to look at the iPad. But that's okay, whatever. And you could see him pitch to another batter. Instead, you're sitting there looking at the iPad. AJ Hinch isn't that. He is a field type manager. I know it's a hard thing for you to grasp and accept, because if I were a fan, I would think the same thing you do. He balances the numbers and a feel. What I don't like, or what I didn't like yesterday, is, and I don't know how much of this has to do with Jackson Job's recent injury, all right, surgery and coming back. I didn't like pulling him after 80 some odd pitches. I think it was 86. All right. So he goes to Holton for 2/3, Waguespack for 2/3 of an inning, Summers for a third, Finnegan for an inning. Did you want him to keep in Finnegan? You probably didn't, especially since he walked a couple of guys. And then he brings in Jansen. I think it's the failure of the organization in general, where you don't have an option. Will Vest goes out. You should have somebody available you could bring in. Meanwhile, by the way, not that this is nobody made a big deal out of this when this happened originally. When the Tigers let go of a former draft pick in Dylan Smith, nobody said a damn thing. He picked up his third save yesterday, 5 strikeouts in 2 innings. We're back after this on X's and Bros.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for the Carmody brothers and all the Buffalo Wild Wings locations in Michigan. Hey, summer's in full swing. You can watch all the Tigers games at all Buffalo Wild Wings locations. Also, the football season will be here before you know it. Lions, Michigan, Michigan State, Central, Western, Eastern, Grand Valley, Ferris, Michigan Tech, Saginaw Valley State, Northwood, and more on all the TVs all season long at all Buffalo Wild Wings in Michigan.
Get ready for the hottest Saturdays of the summer at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Now through August, we're dropping over $1 million in free play. Every hour from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 10 winners score $600 in free play. $1 Million Summer is back, so don't miss your shot at big summer wins. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
The good life isn't about more. It's about making what you have work better. You work hard for your money, so you shouldn't have to work hard to save it. At Meijer, you'll find all the good stuff in one stop with guaranteed fresh produce and Meijer brand faves. Quality so good, we put our name on it. And with M-Perks, you earn rewards to save on what you actually buy. Trust it's worth bringing home and live a life you love. Good life quality at real low prices. Only at Meijer.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
All right, back with you here on X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. Thanks for being with us. I'm Matt Shepard. Brett Hayes, our producer. Meyer, hotline 866-838-4843. Our text line is Sports Radio 21,000, and you can always join us in the chat as we stream live on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook as well. We get back to the text, and then we'll dive into some Lions, because it sounds like a proper guess for the Lions that a website came out and said potential first-time Pro Bowlers for teams. Who could that be for Detroit? We'll get to that coming up here. Via text, let's see, Shep. Hey, George, when does the computer tell us to pull the starter? Hey, George. Is that a reference to George Lombard, the bench coach? Oh, maybe A.J. Hinch asking George Lombard. Shep, if Derek Moore had a big day, did the offensive line have a bad day? That's a really good question. I don't know how you measure that. Yesterday at practice, watching Aiden Hutchinson work against Blake Miller, there were wins and there were losses, depending on the player that you're focused on. Most people are focusing on Aiden Hutchinson. It's hard not to. He's a massive human being, right? He's tall, he's strong, he's thick. He's a menace to anybody who's going to try and block him. Blake Miller's a massive human being, right? Who is it? Is it a nice play by Hutchinson if he beats Blake Miller, or bad by Blake Miller? I was watching that with Luke Getke and Ruben Bain. I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you. If a defensive line is having a really good day, does that mean the offensive line's having a bad day? Obviously, but how much of that is on one or the other? It's a great question. Shep, I want Ty Madden, but what I really want, pick with feel, not with a computer. Well, Ty Madden's never been in that situation. I'm not saying he can't do it. He was a starter at Texas. He's not been in that situation in the minors, and he's not been in that situation in the major leagues either. No, he wasn't necessarily a reliever at Texas, and he's been able to adjust just fine in the major league level. I don't think in a really important game in late August, you want to experiment with a guy who's never done what you're about to ask him to do. Here's your comeback. He did it in the playoffs 2 years ago with Jackson Jobe. Jackson Jobe has different stuff than Ty Madden. It sounds like I'm defending A.J. Hinch here, and I don't mean to. So bear with me. You don't just pick a name out of a hat. You don't just pick a name and say, you know what? I've tried Brett. Now I'm going to try Bill. Bill hasn't worked, so I might as well try Andy. You can't do that. It's not how it works in baseball. Now, at some point, maybe Ty Madden becomes that guy. Personally, I don't think he does. I don't think he's got that stuff. I don't think he's got closer stuff. I know the smartass in you is going, neither does Kenley Jansen. He's got, 56 career blown saves, something along those lines. That's because he's been in that situation for a lot of his career. He's got a lot of saves. And he's been in that situation, and it requires a certain mindset. It requires certain stuff, and he's been really, really successful at it. Not in Detroit. I get it. I'm not trying to tell you that he has. I'm just telling you, you don't put a guy in for an experiment at this time of the season. I think you're asking for all kind. You're getting ridiculed anyway, so I suppose it really it shouldn't matter, right? You don't get to 492, third most. Only Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman have more saves than Kenley Jansen. So what? So what, right? That really doesn't matter. He's 38 years old, all right? But he's been doing this for a long time, man. He's been doing it for 17 years. And though you and I may not want him at the back end of your bullpen, I wasn't thrilled with the signing. Just wasn't. I don't care what's on the back of your baseball card when you're age 38. I care about what you can do. What have you done recently? Are you good enough to pull something off? I would remind you that a year ago, he did have 29 saves. There's something to be said for that, okay? And he had a 2.5 ERA. Think about it for just a moment. If I said to you, I'm going to give you a guy who's among the best ever at what he does, so he knows how to do it. He had a very good year last year. Wasn't a great year. Wasn't an all-star. Wasn't a great year. He was a 2.2 WAR player, which is very respectable. And I'm a believer in wins above replacement. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all, but it's part of your discussion. And he had a 2.5 ERA. And then, of course, you want whip, right? Well, his whip was below 1 last year. His whip was 0.949. If I told you that's what you're going to get, would you have taken it like that? 100%. The problem is he hasn't been that guy this year. This year, his ERA has nearly doubled, 4.19. He has only 16 saves. And more alarming is the whip, walks, hits per innings pitched, which is 1.2. From below 1 to 1.2. So there you go. You can want Ty Madden. He's never been in that situation. Your team's got a chance to make the wild card. Your team's got a chance to gain some ground in the division, and you're going to put out a guy who's never done it? I find that hard to believe. And if you did that, I think most of your coaches and most of your players would be like, what the hell are you doing? I'm not saying stay with Kenley Jansen. My frustration is that the organization has not given you an alternative. Via text. Shep, AJ is part of that front office too. You're damn right. Yep, you're right about that. Thanks for the text. We appreciate it. Texas Sports Radio 21,000. You're 100% right. He's part. It's not just Scott Harris who makes these decisions. AJ Hinch makes them too. Shep, all-time Detroit Tigers players with 100 saves or more who was drafted by Detroit. Mike Henneman, 154. He's drafted in 1984. Yeah. And people didn't feel like he was reliable. He only had, I think, 20 blown saves. And people didn't think he was reliable. I thought he was a good player. But let's be honest with each other. Can we, when it comes to baseball? When you turn to a closer and a guy who's supposed to get that ninth inning, you're not totally comfortable with many guys anyway. If you think people were comfortable with Craig Kimbrell, you're crazy. They weren't. Maybe, just maybe, I would guess people, no maybes about it. People in San Diego are really happy. People in San Diego are pretty comfortable with Mason Miller. Who's got more wins than anybody in the American League? Tampa. Who do they turn to? Do you know who their closer is? Brian Baker. He's got 36 saves. He's got more saves than anybody else, by the way. Have you ever heard of Brian Baker? Brian Baker's got, he used to be in Baltimore, by the way. He's got 3 blown saves. Does that matter to you? Probably not, because Tampa's good enough to overcome. If there's any closer you would want, there's no question it would be Mason Miller. Even he's messed up. Last year, Mason Miller had 4 blown saves. This year, he only has 1. But he's got such lights out stuff that you feel like, you know what? He's untouchable. So I get it. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. All right, when we come back, we're going to dive into some Lions. Who's on the hot seat for the Lions? A national sports website has listed the hot seat. I disagree with it. We'll come to that. 8:35. Don't forget, we make our trip around the Big Ten as we continue to preview the teams, and we talk with Zach Osterman of the Indianapolis Star regarding the defending national champion, Indiana Hoosiers. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer.
In my pro football days, the key to winning was a great game plan. It's no different when it comes to your retirement. Hi, this is Mitch Lyons from Mitch Lyons Wealth. Is stock market turbulence making you question whether your plan is okay? Do the ups and downs of your retirement account give you the jitters? Are you protected against the next market downdraft? As you approach retirement, you're entering the retirement red zone. Like in football, the game changes in the red zone. There's less time for mistakes, and you need to see your blind spots and protect yourself. Is your retirement safe? Let's find out today. Let's create a game plan together that will protect, grow, and win retirement. You've worked hard to save what you have. Let's make sure you keep it. 30 to 40 years of saving for retirement is worth a 15-minute call to make sure you've done all that you can to protect your retirement. Call Mitch Lyons Wealth today at 844-867-8335. That's 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com. Investment advisory services are offered to MLW Advisory Services, DBA Mitch Lyons Wealth, a state-registered investment advisor.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
You can't get enough Lions talk. X's and Bros gets that and wants to deliver.
Touchdown Detroit Lions! That's what I'm talking about!
Every Tuesday at 8:35, we talk with Lions linebacker Jimmy Rolder.
There's a trouble and don't. Jimmy Rolder had the fumble recovery on the first possession. A lot of sack here.
What's the mood of the team? What's the challenge with the next opponent? And what's his rookie year taught him?
Interception! This time it's Jimmy Rolder!
Lions linebacker Jimmy Rolder, every Tuesday morning on X's and Bros, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
18 after the hour. Welcome back. Our good friend Mitch Lyons from MitchLyonsWealth.com usually joins us Monday mornings, Mondays with Mitch. Call him today to help out in your retirement, 866-85-STEEL. That's 866-85-STEEL. Or go to his website, MitchLyonsWealth.com. He sends me a text. You're going to pick on Job because he didn't go deep? I think there's anytime there's a loss, anytime there's disappointment, anytime there's an inability to reach expectations or your ability, inability to reach what you consider their ceiling, there's a lot of fingers being pointed in different directions. I'm not saying it's Jackson Job's fault. He gave up one run and in 5 1/3 innings. All I said was, I want my starters to go deeper than 86 pitches and 5 1/3. I also stated maybe some of that has to do with the fact that he's not that far off from having surgery or making his rehab assignments from surgery. So I totally understand it. I just want them to go deeper. At some point, do you not have to recognize the weakness of what your team is? If I asked any Tigers fan, what's the weakness of this team? You would say bullpen, right? How do you fix the bullpen? Well, if you can't fix it within the system and you're not acquiring a bullpen, what do? You have your starters go longer. That's not that foreign of a concept. It's not that hard to figure out. That's my issue as much as anything else. I was reading NFL.com yesterday, and this headline caught me. One potential first-time Pro Bowler from each NFC team heading into 2026. So with headlines like this, I don't scroll down right away. I think of who I would suggest. It's not Penny Sewell. He's been there. It's not Jared Goff. He's been there. It's not Jahmyr Gibbs. He's been there. It's not Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been there. It's not Sam Laporta. He's been there. It's not Jack Campbell. He's been there, right? Who do you figure it? It's not Kirby Joseph. It's not Brian Branch. I thought, okay, Jameson Williams, maybe. Fork to nose. Best number 2 receiver in the National Football League. Who is it? And I'm not talking about those who are self-promoting Stephon Diggs, who I suppose could have some type of debate on or win some type of debate that would be put him in that conversation. I think a lot of people think it's T. Higgins. A lot of people might think it's George Pickens. Well, who's Dallas's one? Was it CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens? George Pickens had the better year than CeeDee Lamb did last year. But CeeDee Lamb only played 14 games. He was hurt. So he missed 3 games. So it could have been different. So Dallas would probably have that argument. Who am I missing? Who's another number 2 who I might be missing? Let's see, Devontae Smith will be a 1 this year. Kyle Pitts is a tight end. I would say T. Higgins would be the answer. I was going to say Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen just signed a new contract with who did he sign with? I forget who he signed with. He signed a 1-year deal, which is a crazy strat, by the way. He's fewer than 50 receptions away from having the 3rd most in history. Jerry Rice, Larry Fitzgerald, Marvin Harrison. Keenan Allen at some point this year is going to leapfrog Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Anquan Bolden, Terrell Owens, and Tim Brown. Maybe even Chris Carter, which seems odd to me. But Jameson Williams is in the conversation for best number 2 wide receiver. So that's where my mind went. NFL.com says for the Lions, it's Aleem McNeil. Here's what they write. Prior to the 2024 knee injury, Aleem McNeil was a penetrating wrecking ball. After his midseason return last year, the 6'2", 302-pound defensive tackle lacked the explosiveness that got him paid. We can all agree with that, right? I would hope so. The further away the injury, the better things should get for the big man. His return to prominence is crucial for the Lions defense already dealing with injuries. If McNeil gets back to pre-injury ways, Detroit's defensive front is vastly more disruptive. So Lee McNeil in week 6 or in year 6 would be that first time ever. That's a really good one. It's better than mine. Because like I said, mine was Jamison Williams. Lee McNeil makes a lot of sense. A lot of guys you got to leapfrog over that who are widely considered the better of the defensive tackles, which I totally understand. All you got to do is look at Philly, right? But I get it. Totally understand it. The fact that they recognize how important he is to the defense, not that they needed us to do this, but the fact that they recognize that tells you something. You and I have been talking about that for a long time. We've been saying that Aleem McNeil is one of the most important players for this defense that you can find. He has to have one of those big years. You're going to have, I think it's an automatic assumption that Aiden Hutchinson's going to be who he is. Jack Campbell's going to be who he is. When Brian Branch comes back, I look, on Achilles, I think it's going to take some time. But you've got some playmakers at different levels. Really good teams. Baltimore's like this. Really good playmakers. Defensive line, middle, linebackers, and then the secondary, right? Kyle Hamilton. Philadelphia's like that. They've got those playmakers at each level, whoever that may be. Davis, Bond, and then pick one because they've got such two good, really, really good cornerbacks. DeJean. Detroit needs that secondary. You're hoping that it's Keith Abney. I know that's saying a lot for a 5th-round pick. You got it in the front with Hutchinson, and you've got Campbell as well in the middle. If Aleem McNeil can add to that and return to who he was a year ago, and we talked about this yesterday a lot, about the importance of Aleem McNeil, and then NFL.com comes out with this article. Not that they were listening to X's and Bros, but you understand where I'm coming from. We were talking about this yesterday and the importance of him getting back to where he was a couple of years ago. And it's not always about numbers. It's not always about statistics. Okay? Because they can be misleading, especially in football. Fernando Mendoza of the Raiders said it really well yesterday, and how you have to be a well-oiled unit. In order to do that, everybody's got to be doing their job. And Aleem McNeil was that, I would say, more like 2023 than he was 2024. Last year, if you want to wipe it away, here's a guy who in 2023, he was it. 5 sacks from the defensive tackle position. That was a career high. 10 quarterback hits. We talked about him and a guy like Levi Onwuzurike. Obviously, Tyleik Williams. Who else are you going to talk about? Well, there are other players within this team's depth chart, and especially at that position, that you're going to need to step forward and assume some opportunities, whether it be Chris Smith or Skylar Gill-Howard or someone of that ilk, right? Aleem McNeil is one of the most important players on that defense because of what he is capable of bringing. We've seen it before. He needs to get back there for certain. It's a really good one. Who's on the hot seat? And why does this bother me about the NFL? I'll explain. Coming up here on X's and Bros on a Tullymore Thursday. We're brought to you this hour by Meijer.
The good life isn't about more. It's about making what you have work better. You work hard for your money, so you shouldn't have to work hard to save it. At Meijer, you'll find all the good stuff in one stop with guaranteed fresh produce and Meijer brand faves. Quality so good, we put our name on it. And with M-Perks, you earn rewards to save on what you actually buy. Trust is worth bringing home and live a life you love. Good life quality at real low prices. Only at Meijer.
September 11th at Soaring Eagle, a hot night of soul.
Grab somebody sexy, tell them hey.
3-time Grammy winner Neo and the princess of hip hop, Keisha Cole. Tickets start at $53 and are on sale now at the Soaring Eagle box office or etix.com. Music that takes you there. Neo and Keisha, September 11th, part of the Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
You know, we're fortunate here in Michigan. We have some of the greatest golf courses in the country. Tullymore and St. Ives is part of the reason we can brag the way we do about our golf. Once you visit Tullymore, you'll keep coming back. The view is breathtaking. The golf is fantastic. The accommodations are regal, and the people are special. It really does feel like a home away from home at Tullymore. Make your play and stay reservations today by going to tullymoregolf.com or by calling 1-800-972-4837. That's 1-800-972-4837.
Get ready for the hottest Saturdays of the summer at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Now through August, we're dropping over $1 million in free play. Every hour from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 10 winners score $600 in free play. $1 Million Summer is back, so don't miss your shot at big summer wins. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
I feel like Coach Shep, he look at me as a guy who can get to the ball. I feel like that's what he want to do and get on third down, is get to the ball. He's looking for guys that can get to the ball. So, I just want to be one of them guys that, he trusts. I just want to be one of them guys that Coach Shep trusts, and I can get to the ball. That's it.
I think he wants to be able to get to the ball. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think he wants to get to the ball. Welcome back. That's Derek Moore, the second-round pick out of the University of Michigan. When healthy, looks like, that's a key word, looks like an impact player. Looks like it. We don't know yet. It's hard in our business to say we don't know, isn't it? It's really difficult. But that's kind of the way it goes, I think, in sports. And we don't look. It's kind of hypocritical of me, to be honest with you, because somebody texted earlier and said they want Ty Madden to be a closer, and I said he's never done it. How do you know until he does it? It's just whether or not this is the right timing. It sure doesn't seem that's the right timing. Derek Moore is the guy who's going to have to. He's going to be thrust into it, man. He's going to be sharing snaps with DJ Wanham. He looks. This is just an observation of being there on Sunday and being there yesterday at practice. He looks like a guy who's going to create some serious problems for offenses. And if you can line him up at different spots, and you can, I want you to think about that versatility. If you're Kelvin Shepard, the defensive coordinator, and you got a chance to line up Aiden Hutchinson at either end and over the middle, and the same thing with Derek Moore, it's going to be like a kid in a candy store. The opportunity, the options, what you can do with it is going to be incredible. So let's hope he can stay healthy. When he was healthy at Michigan, he was highly productive. And let's see how he handles bigger, faster, smarter offensive linemen than he's ever faced. But he's had, when healthy, when he's out there, because he wasn't for the early part of camp, he's had a good camp. Let's see how he plays Saturday against Washington. All right. That's the Lions' only preseason home game of the year. Back with you here on X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. Phone number on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. You can join us in the chat as well. Former NFL quarterback, Sirius XM host, Jim Miller is going to host this show tomorrow morning. Looking forward to that for sure. All right. Jim's going to have our friend Todd Haley on. I think Mitch Lyons is going to join him. It's going to be fantastic. So check out Jim tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock here on X's and Bros. CBS Sports came out with the hot seat of players or coaches. One name associated with hot seat for each team. For the, obviously for the Lions, I don't know who, we don't care about anybody else, but I'll give you an example. For the Bears, they put Kyle Gordon, their cornerback. For the Packers, they put Lucas Van Ness. And for the Vikings, they put Kyler Murray. He's on the hot seat, 1-year contract. It's interesting that he's on the hot seat in Minnesota when they have options. Carson Wentz is an option. J.J. McCarthy's an option. It's not great options, but it's decent options. Better than the Lions' options. Better than Josh Dobbs and better than Luke Altmaier. But anyway, the Lions' hot seat. I think theirs is interesting. I don't get it, quite honestly. They put Blake Miller. And when I read that, before I read the synopsis, my initial thought was, okay, because he's taking Penei Sewell's place. He's a first-round pick. He ain't going anywhere. All right, they're going to play him. He's going to have some growing pains. We all know that. He looks good early in camp. He's got a great base. He's got a good punch. Slides well. He's big and he's strong and he's tough to move. I was talking with somebody at the Lions on Sunday and I said, how has he looked? And they said, he's looked really good. Didn't say phenomenal. They didn't get overhyped about it. They just said, he looks really good. And I said, I got to be honest with you. I want a Monroe Freeling. And they said, well, Freeling, they worried about the health. It's not that they didn't like him. They were more locked in on Miller because of his track record, because of what he showed at Clemson. Only missed one practice, never missed a game, played more snaps than anybody in the history of Clemson football. Fine. CBS puts Blake Miller. That's not the name I would have associated with it. Hot seat to me means if you don't get it done, you're out. That's hot seat to me. So maybe it's the definition. For me, it's Kelvin Shepard, the defensive coordinator. But anyway, here's what they write for Blake Miller. Welcome to the NFL. Blake Miller, your role, step into the spot vacated by arguably the best offensive lineman in the game on a team that desperately needs to bounce back and viewed through some lenses could still be a Super Bowl contender. Whether you think they can win it or not, are they not a contender? Who are the contenders going into the season? Because we don't know what the teams look like just yet. Who are the contenders? There's no question Detroit's a contender for the Super Bowl. Philadelphia is. The Rams are. The Seahawks are. The Niners are. I'm talking about from the NFC. Okay? Would you say the Bears? Out of respect from a year ago, Detroit has done it 2 of the last 3 years. Okay? This is a team that's got more talent than any outside of the Rams, probably anybody, maybe Philadelphia, in the entire conference, the NFC. Anyway, they continue. Miller will slot in at right tackle as Penei Sewell switches to the left side for the Lions. Quarterback Jared Goff is heavily dependent on pass protection, so Miller's performance will be crucial. I would argue every quarterback is pretty dependent on protection up front. There are plenty of question marks on defense who could have landed on this list. Several cornerbacks, injured safeties, Kirby Joseph, and defensive lineman Tyleik Williams. But Miller will be under trial by fire right away. It's when I say I think it would be Kelvin Shepard who would be on the hot seat. That's not a unique take. For Washington, they have Dan Quinn. For Philadelphia, they have offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. The Lions have to, and I know it's going to be difficult. It's obviously going to be difficult because of the injuries to the safeties, right? But the Lions have to be better defensively in a lot of different categories, if you think about it. They need to create more turnovers, and they need to keep people out of the end zone. Although they did a pretty good job of that a year ago. They gave up only 24 points per game. All right? I think Kelvin Shepard, being that this is his second year, and he was good, his team was really good against the pass a year ago. They were average against the run. I don't, you know me, I don't care as much about yards as I do points per game. I think he has the most pressure because this is where everybody views as a weak point for this team. I don't think they view the offense as a weak point. I think they view the offense as a team that is, or a side of the ball that is prolific and high-powered and will be, because of there's just too much evidence of how good they've been in the past, will be a thorn in everybody's side. I would guess one of the keys to victory just about for every single game Detroit plays this year is the opposing team. I don't care if it's New Orleans in week 1, Buffalo in week 2, whatever. One of the keys to the game by an analyst and or a coach will be, they will be saying, we got to keep their offense off the field. Not that you're going to keep track of that, but just out of curiosity, tell me during the season, if you're not at least hearing that more often than not, how are you going to beat this team? Here's how you beat them. You beat them by keeping their offense off the field. Via text. Let's see here. Shep. What bothers me about most managers, even AJ, is when they pull starters early, they will do their best to pull them out after 5 1/3. So that puts them in line to get a win. That's probably one of the most bothersome things in sports that pisses me off. We're gonna pull you, but we're gonna try to get you the win. It drives me crazy. Understood. I don't think there's many pitchers that want to be pulled, especially if they're going well like that. And I think there's a lot of teams out there, a lot of players out there. Not that they're second guessing their manager, but I think that does make them wonder a little bit. I think they might be driving home, they might be walking back to the ballpark. In Pittsburgh, you just walk back to the ballpark. Because where you stay, it's just over the Clemente Bridge. It's just, you don't, you're probably saying to, why do you think he pulled him so early? Knowing that our bullpen's not that good, why would you do that? Via text, Chef Kalimba Edwards looked like a stud too. Great point. Touche. Kalimba Edwards looked like a stud. Yeah. You know who was a stud? Ziggy Ansah was a stud for the Lions. Kalimba Edwards, in case people don't know who that is, he was a second-round pick. He was out of South Carolina. I covered him while he was with the Lions in 2002. All right. And the most sacks he ever had in a single season was 7, which was okay. Nothing special. I mean, his rookie year, he was pretty good. He had 6.5 sacks. He had 5 tackles for loss. But he had a decent career. Played 6 years in Detroit, 1 year in Oakland. Decent career. 7 years, a good career. I mean, it gets you vested. You get yourself a pension. All right. Mitch Lyons can completely relate to that because he played 7 years in the National Football League. It's hard to stick and stay. However, Mitch Lyons wasn't a second-round draft pick. And therein lies the difference, right? Expectations. Second round, 35th overall is where Detroit took Kalimba Edwards. That's just the way. Unfortunately, I think Joey Harrington. Detroit took Joey Harrington in the first round. Kalimba Edwards in the second round. Oh my God. Oh. Sorry. Had a moment there. This bothers me about the National Football League, and I don't know why it does. Roger Goodell says that there is no doubt in his mind that the National Football League will have a team based outside the United States and that a Super Bowl will be played outside the United States. Well, I'm not a big fan of Roger Goodell, but here's the one thing you have to admit. He has made this league, its owners, its front office people, and its players more money than they would ever thought. He does have bigger things that needs to be addressed. It doesn't mean he has to talk about it every single time. Like Chicago moving to Indiana is a problem. The National Football League needs to help mend that fence between the city, the state, and the football team. They should not be playing in Hamden, Indiana. Okay? That's an issue. But that doesn't mean if he's asked a question about the Super Bowl or about teams expansion and so on and so forth, that he shouldn't first refer to, well, I've got bigger fish to fry. I got to worry about what's going on in Chicago. But here's the thing that does bother me. And it shouldn't, because it doesn't affect me as a Michigander. But what bothers me is that the biggest game of the year, the staple of what the league last year played in New Orleans, right? The staple of the National Football League, the Super Bowl, still has, I think, 15 teams that have not hosted a Super Bowl. You're going to talk about playing a Super Bowl overseas in London, in Europe, wherever it may be, and yet you're not rewarding your own American fan base in Baltimore? That would be hard. I know, it's outdoors. In Buffalo? That's solved now. In Charlotte's used to really big events. Chicago is going to be really hard. Okay, you're not playing it outdoors in February in Chicago, Illinois. You're not doing that in Cincinnati. Okay, you're not doing that in Cleveland. You're not doing that in Denver. And you're not doing it in Green Bay. You're not doing it in Kansas City. You're not doing it in Foxborough. All right, you're not doing it in Philly or Pittsburgh or Seattle, for crying out loud. You could do it in Nashville, couldn't you? Without a doubt. Washington wouldn't work. Those are all the teams. Those are the 15 NFL markets that have not hosted a Super Bowl. Detroit has twice. There's a reason for that. They have a dome. Now, I'm all for outdoor football. I love it. I used to love watching the Vikings play outdoors with Fran Tarkenton and Chuck Foreman. I think it's so cool when you see old film of the Packers and Bart Starr and Forrest Gregg and Don Majkowski and all those guys doing what they did outdoors. And you could see your breath, or the snowball game between the Eagles and the Lions that I was at, and LaShawn McCoy rushed for over 200 yards against the Lions. I remember all those. Those are really great memories. You don't want your Super Bowl like that. And I understand it. Okay. But I think it would be disrespectful, and I don't use that word very often. You know that, because I think it's way overused. Disrespectful to take your Super Bowl to a city that doesn't have a football team, that doesn't love football the way the United States of America loves football. You can play games there. They're going to have 9 games over there. They have 9 games outside the United States this year in the National Football League. How many of those fans are from that area? I don't know the answer to that. Like when the Lions play in Germany, how many are going to be Germans? How many are going to be people who have traveled? I've got friends just down the street who are traveling to Germany because they're Lions fans, which to me is asinine, but whatever. Do what you want. How many of them are them compared to locals? If you didn't have any Americans, no tickets available to anybody in the United States, the National Football League doesn't bring any of its representatives. How many people are going? When they don't truly understand the sport that well. And maybe this is based on my experience from when I called NFL Europe. That was a long, long time ago. But people there told me much of what I tell them about the United States of soccer. And that is, I just don't think it'll ever take off. That's what they told me about American football being played in Europe. That bothers me. I'm not saying I'd rather sit through a Super Bowl in Washington or Philly or Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Kansas City or Green Bay or Foxborough or something like that. But don't you think Nashville deserves at least a look? I'm not asking you to put it in Cleveland in a kickoff. But Charlotte could handle it in February, couldn't they? You would think so. Okay, bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. We'll keep our tour around the Big Ten with Zach Osterman. He writes for the Indianapolis Star. He's going to break down on what makes Indiana the possibility of a back-to-back champion. When we return, a really disturbing report about the Red Wings. On top of that, some people want this next Tiger extended instead of the guy that I've been crying for 2 years now. We'll explain when we come back in the 8 o'clock hour on X's and Bros on a Tullymore Thursday. We're brought to you this hour by Meijer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
Summer's freshest flavors and unbeatable value are waiting for you at Meijer. Enjoy juicy red seedless grapes for just $1.99 a pound. Fire up the grill with fresh from Meijer boneless pork loin chops. Buy one, get one for $1. Locally grown blueberries are plump with summer sweetness and are only $3.99 a pint. And crisp, colorful green bell peppers are just 79 cents each. From backyard cookouts to weeknight dinners, you can always count on Meijer for good life quality at real low prices. Exclusions apply. See the Meijer app for details.
Get ready for the hottest Saturdays of the summer at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Now through August, we're dropping over $1 million in free play. Every hour from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 10 winners score $600 in free play. $1 Million Summer is back, so don't miss your shot at big summer wins. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Top of the hour here in the third and final hour of X's and Bros, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. In case you missed it yesterday, I doubt you did. Tigers blow a 3-2 lead in the ninth with one out. 0-2 pitch. Tied it up from Kenley Jansen to Rafael Flores down the left field line. Hit the foul pole. And then, the Brandon Lau home run would follow two batters later. That would hit the foul pole. Fifth blown save of the year for Jansen, 27th for the team overall, 19th blown lead after the seventh inning for Detroit. They sit 5.5 back of Chicago. It's not insurmountable, but it doesn't look good. I don't think we give Chicago nearly enough credit. They just came in and swept the Tigers, and we think that they're not that good. They just shut out Chicago, the Cubs. Detroit's also 1.5 back of the Twins, which I can't figure out. Josh Bell, fine. Byron Buxton, fine. Trevor Larnach, okay. I mean, Royce Lewis, whatever. How are they doing it? I don't know. I really don't know how they're doing it. They just swept the Braves. For crying out loud, they just swept the 76 win team, 75 win team in Atlanta Braves. Don't know how that happens, but that's the fun thing about sports. So the Twins right now, if the playoffs were to start today, they would be the third and final wild card. At West Michigan, you know this if you're listening on the west side of the state, especially on our blowtorch in Grand Rapids, WMAX 96.1 FM, the game. Bryce Rayner homered for a fifth straight game. That's a Whitecaps record. He's got 15 on the year in West Michigan, 16 on the year overall because he played some time in Lakeland. And the Lions, I practiced yesterday. They'll practice again today. Tomorrow won't be quite as vigorous as they get ready for Washington on Saturday. And yesterday, the standout really was Derek Moore. Here's the Mitch Lyons Wealth Poll question of the day. We have them for you every single day. Which option would you commit to? Keep Dylan Larkin, extend Jalen Duren on a max contract, or pick up the team option on Kenley Jansen? It's not leaving you many options, unfortunately. I'll be interested to get the results tomorrow in the 8 o'clock hour here on X's and Bros. Speaking of Dylan Larkin and the Red Wings, Bob Duff, a well-known writer out of Windsor for a long, long time, covers the Wings in the National Hockey League. He wrote yesterday, or maybe it was early this morning on social media, the Red Wings have not held any interviews for their general manager job. How is that possible, do you think? The frustrating thing for me is that I don't know how close or how fearful people are of telling owners or higher-ups the lay of the land. I don't know if Chris Ilitch listens to any sports radio or reads any articles or watches any reports or follows on social media. I'm sure Chris Ilitch has got much bigger things to do than listen to a radio station or follow people on social media. I do believe if I were him, I would be asking at least my PR department to give me updated articles that you might be able to read through. He doesn't have time to scroll through X all the time. It's just ridiculous. I don't know if Jeff Greenberg does either, the general manager of the Tigers, who probably doesn't. He's probably in the room, no doubt, but he's not making the decisions. President of Baseball Ops, Scott Harris and AJ Hinchar. Jeff Greenberg's not. Jeff Greenberg's in a role as general manager, and that is strictly in name. He might be the next general manager of the Red Wings. Maybe that's the reason they're not interviewing anybody. They've already made up their mind. Jeff Greenberg's going to be our general manager, no problem. And he's got hockey background. He's got hockey experience. Okay. Maybe that's the case. But it's a bad look. It's bad PR. It is really bad karma if you've got a team that is in search of a general manager and isn't interviewing for general managers. If they know that it's going to be Sean Harkoff, they know it's going to be Chris Draper, they know it's going to be Nick Lidstrom, or they know it's going to be Jeff Greenberg, maybe those are the interviews that are taking place, but then why a report like this? Her reports have been wrong, obviously, in the past. How does that happen, though? That is something that you would does anybody come to the owner and literally say, where are we with the general manager search for the Red Wings? Because people are asking, and we've got to have an answer. People are pissed, and they should be upset, because this is not normal in the business world. Chris Ilitch is a businessman. If he needed a hierarchy important position for Little Caesars or any other organization that he runs, anything else he does, he would be on it as fast as possible, because it may slow down production. It may slow down delivery. It slows down efficiency. I don't know if I've ever seen a situation where a leader of a team, any sport, any level, a leader of a team has wanted out. You can't appease him for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is because you don't have anybody who pulled the trigger. It's not unique that you have fired somebody without replacing them right away. You've got a season that isn't far away where you're dropping the puck and people are going to be like, whoa, who's running this ship? And if you don't have that guy and you don't feel like it's necessary, what does that say about your hierarchy? What does it say about your organization? I think it's crazy that they're going through this right now. Here's what else is crazy. That Terrion Arnold is with another team. Terrion Arnold was cut by the Lions. They can use the excuse of the legal problems. He wasn't very good in the first place, and he seemed to be getting hurt too often. Hard Knocks, I don't know how much you watch of it. I think it's a great show. I love the All Access. I do wonder how much is not staged, but played up for the cameras a little bit. John Schneider is the general manager for the Seattle Seahawks. He's done a hell of a job there. Not just because they won a Super Bowl, but he's just gone about things the right way. John Schneider, they had mic'd up and cameras rolling while he was talking with Terrion Arnold's agent about whether or not it's the right fit for Arnold in Seattle. Listen to this from Hard Knocks on HBO.
Hey, Nicole. Hey, Tyrion's going to give his calls to the 7 other teams. Okay. I just want to make sure we are 100% good. Nothing I should be, because, literally he has so many offers, and I feel really good about this situation. From a human development point, he feels good, so I just want to triple check, because he's about to call them all and tell them he's going to Seattle.
We're 100% good, buddy. Just waiting. The only thing I'm gonna, just so you know, when I talk to him, I'm gonna be like, "You're coming in here to fit in. This isn't
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You and I are on the same page there, right?
I want 100%. Okay. I want all that. This is a long-term play.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, that's just a piece of it. Without getting too nitpicky, that's Nicole Lynn, by the way. She's Terrion Arnold's agent, talking with John Schneider. John Schneider's walking on the treadmill while talking, which is pretty funny too. But she said he has so many. You heard that, right? He has so many other options. We just want to make sure before we call them and say, he's not coming here. Nope, sorry, we're going someplace else. That we're good with you. Before we sign on the dotted line with the Seattle Seahawks, we want to tell the other teams, so many other teams, that it's not happening. Do you know how many other teams there were? According to her, according to the Detroit Free Press, Lynn, via the Detroit Free Press, there were 3. The Colts, the Jets, and the Texans. There's 2 really good options there. The Seahawks and the Texans. So it's not that I root against the individual or the player. I don't root against the agent, but it's just so blown out of proportion. Like John Schneider probably knows that too. John Schneider doesn't think that we have so many other opportunities, so many other offers. No, you don't. You've got 3 other offers. One's a really good one in Houston. You want to go play for the Jets? I suppose you'd play for anybody, right? But don't give me this, that there were so many other options. Bottom of the hour, we are going to take a look at the Indiana Hoosiers, the defending national champs, Zach Osterman. What are they missing? What do they have that gives them so much encouragement? That's coming up at 8:35 here on X's and Bros, and we're brought to you on a Tullymore Thursday by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
You can't get enough Lions talk. X's and Bros gets that and wants to deliver.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! That's what I'm talking about!
Every Tuesday at 8:35, we talk with Lions linebacker Jimmy Rolder.
There's a trouble and dumped. Jimmy Rolder had the fumble recovery on the first possession. A lot of sack here.
What's the mood of the team? What's the challenge with the next opponent? And what's his rookie year taught him?
Interception! This time it's Jimmy Rolder!
Lions linebacker Jimmy Rolder, every Tuesday morning on X's and Bros, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Coming up later today at 3 on the Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Extensions are a little tricky. When you give them, many people thought the Lions' extension to Kirby Joseph was too soon. Jamison Williams was too soon. Amon-Ra St. Brown might have been too soon. Aiden Hutchinson. You didn't have to, Shep. Why would you extend them? Because of what is expected in the market. It's a little like a stockbroker if you're a general manager. You've got to guess what's going to be higher and when to buy. So you get in at a little bit higher at the time, but in the long run, you are saving yourself money. Baseball is not much different. And there's a lot of teams that were trying to figure it out. Should the Angels extend Zach Neto? Should Seattle extend J.P. Crawford? Right? The Tigers are doing something, and they have extended certain players. Obviously, they've extended Kevin McGonigal. They've extended Cole Keith. People felt like it was a misplay on Cole Keith, but it was warranted with Kevin McGonigal. It was the same philosophy. I think Cole Keith's is fine. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. You got to figure out how much players are making and what they add to your team. I don't think it's a heavy lift for Cole Keith in $4 million. The Yankees are probably going to extend Cam Schlittler. What's he going to command? Because he's been a really good player. The Reds and Chase Burns, they agreed to a 7-year, $105 million extension without any club options. So that's him, right? 3 years ago, Julio Teheran, Spencer Strider, right? Hunter Green, Brian Balo, all those guys. Well, what's Pittsburgh going to do with Paul Skeens? Perhaps the Tigers could do something with Troy Melton. Maybe Max Clark, because of what teams have done and what the Tigers have done. Remember, Corbin Carroll, who's a really good player, in 2023, signed an extension, 8 years, $111 million. San Diego did something similar with their center fielder, Jackson Merrill, who I really like, 9 years, $135 million. Connor Griffin in Pittsburgh. The shortstop who hadn't played in the major leagues yet was the number one overall prospect, 9 years, $140 million. J.J. Weatherholt, St. Louis. This is a trend now. Weatherholt is probably going to be the runner-up in the National League Rookie of the Year. He's a shortstop for the Cardinals, 8 years, $112 million. McGonigal succeeded all of those. His was 8 for $150. But you would guess that because what does it do? What does it do? It covers the 5 years of team control and then some. All right? So you don't have to worry about arbitration. Clark's would have to cover about 6 if you did that. Could you extend a guy like Melton? I guess my bigger question would be, because others have done it too. I mean, Cole Emerson was extended 8 years, close to $100 million. If you want to do that with Troy Melton, that's fine. And I wouldn't balk at it, no pun intended. I guess my question would be, if you're going to take care of Keith, you're going to take care of McGonigal, and you're contemplating, this is a fan base now more than anything else, if you're contemplating extending Melton and or Clark, and you've already extended Keith and McGonigal, where the hell's Riley Green's extension? McGonigal's going to be Rookie of the Year. Dylan Dingler, despite his recent offensive struggles, still solid defensively, is or was, I don't know if he is any longer, in the discussion for MVP. You have that discussion at different points during the season, right? Remember the NFL last year? Do you remember early on in the season? Who was in the MVP conversation? Do you recall? Daniel Jones for the Indianapolis Colts. And then he got hurt. I'm not saying he wouldn't have continued to stay there. There's a lot of names that are brought up. Preseason, Jaden Daniels a year ago. The Sheik pick this year, Caleb Williams, because of what he showed you last season, right? So there's a lot of guys that, you start talking about it prior to a year and during the season. I get it. As much as Dylan Dingler deserves to be in that conversation. Perhaps McGonigal deserves to be in that conversation of MVP, along with, Yordan Alvarez and Bobby Witt Jr. and others. And the Tigers will see Bobby Witt Jr. and the Royals tomorrow. Yes, Bobby Witt's playing. Bobby Witt had the game-winning RBI a couple of nights ago. But anyway, just follow along, other people in the media. The Tigers are about to take on the Royals. They should sweep them. Why? There's no Bobby Witt. No, you're thinking about a month ago. Anyway, what about Riley Green? Riley Green has been this organization's best player over a long stretch. Is he their best player this year? No. Dylan Dingler's won a Gold Glove. Kevin McGonigal is going to win Rookie of the Year. Something that Riley Green has done neither of. But for 3 straight years, he's made the All-Star team. He's been a starter in left field for that All-Star team. He's well respected. He has cut down on his strikeouts this year, which I think a lot of Tigers fans wanted to see, but they won't talk about it. And a lot of people think that I'm a bit of a Riley Green honk. And you can feel that way all you want. That's fine. I think he's a really good baseball player. I think he's a really good hitter. And I think he's a really good fielder. He's not going to make me forget Ted Williams, Al Kaline, Roberto Clemente, Dwight Evans, players like that. But I can tell you this, there's not many left fielders I'd rather have than Riley Green. And I understand that the strikeouts are a concern. It's been a concern for a long time. I hate to tell you that that's baseball, because that doesn't mean it has to be. If that's baseball, then why do we celebrate Kevin McGonigal so much? We celebrate him because he's got a great eye at the plate. He spits on the right pitches. He makes really good contact. He doesn't strike out. He gets on base, right? Riley Green has more walks this year than he had all of last year. The thing that gets lost in the whole discussion with Riley Green is that he's going to set a career high in walks this year. If and when he comes back. I mean, I expect him to come back. His career high is 64. It's nothing to write home about. All right. It's not a single season like Barry Bonds. I'm not overreacting to it. But his slug has remained pretty consistent over the last few years. His on-base percentage this year is a career high at 36.6. That's a hell of a really nice accomplishment. He gives you solid left field play. 3 years ago, he was a 5.3 WAR, which is incredible. Okay. Last year, he was a 2.2 WAR. That's an all-star. This year, he's a 2 WAR. What have I said? If you listen to the show long enough, you've got to be able to get position WAR players up to, if you want to compete for a World Series, you've got to get up to the Dodgers and the Braves and the Yankees and their team WARs. That's a really important statistic moving forward. And I'm not talking about pitchers. See, in the pitchers, we used to talk about Tarek Skubal all the time. And I get it. And rightfully so. Okay? But I'm talking about team WAR, not pitching. I'm talking about player WAR. Dingler at 4.3, McGonigal at 5.7. All right? Torres at 2.2. Green's at 2. Everybody else is barely above the break even. Spencer Torkelson, 0.01, or a minus. At least on who've been in the lineup on a regular basis. Like Zach McKinstry's a 1 WAR player. Okay. When let's get to the final results of the poll question from the other day. I just think you should extend Riley Green before you extend anybody else. Not out of common courtesy, but because of being smart. Can you forgive Dylan Larkin was the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question yesterday. Yes, as long as he says he's sorry. Yes, as long as he plays well, or no, he quit on us. Brett, what were the final results of that Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question from yesterday?
41% said yes if he plays well. 39% said no, he quit on us. And 20% said yes with an apology.
Well done. We appreciate your indulging in our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. We got another one today. Which option would you commit to? Brett has tweeted it out. I've retweeted it. Vote as often as you want. Jim Miller will give the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow morning. When we come back, we will continue our tour around the Big Ten. Zach Osterman, Indianapolis Star, tells us about the Indiana Hoosiers after this on X's and Bros, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Huge here for all the ABC warehouse locations in Michigan. Now, if you're looking for the best prices on TVs, furniture, appliances, mattresses, and more, you need to go to abcwarehouse.com. You can shop there and also shop in person at all ABC warehouse locations across Michigan. For the one close to you, go to abcwarehouse.com. Best deals on TVs, appliances, furniture, and mattresses at all ABC warehouse locations in Michigan.
Imagine this, a day filled with indulgence, bursting with excitement, and packed with extraordinary moments that build memories to last a lifetime. A day that is unmistakably yours, at the place that is undeniably spectacular. Whether you're winning big, dining lavishly, or relaxing oh so comfortably, it's your getaway reimagined at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu. Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
35 after the hour. Welcome back on a Tullymore Thursday. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, who will be the next national champion in college football. For the last 3 years, the Big Ten has celebrated it. Last year, it was the Hoosiers of Indiana that won it for the first time in the history of their football program. Zach Osterman was along for the ride. He followed the Hoosiers. He covered them in the national championship game. He writes for the Indianapolis Star. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Osterman. The Zach is with an H, and he joins us here on X's and Bros to preview what the Hoosiers bring to the 2027 college football table. Zach, good morning to you. Hope you and your family are well. Before we dive into this year, what were you most wrong about with Curt Cignetti? When he first took the job and he was at the Big Ten Media Day and he said some of the things that I think were boldly said, and applaud him for it, a lot of people snickered. What were you most wrong about with him?
That's an interesting way to phrase it, because actually, that first year, when I did my schedule prediction, I predicted they would go 8-4 in the regular season, and obviously, I mean, Indiana had only won, I think, 8 games once in my 15 some odd years on the beat, so even that felt like a stretch. And I think I predicted they'd win their bowl game because, who cares at that point? It's just a throwaway. And, people were sort of like, you really think they're going to win 9 games? And it turned out I underestimated them. And then last season, I think I picked them to win 10 games and go back to the playoff, and they won 16. So, I mean, if anything, I've been more bullish than the average on Curt Cignetti at Indiana, probably, and I've still gotten it, pretty comfortably wrong both times. But I will say, it's easy to say this with the benefit of hindsight, but
sure,
I've been around here for, I guess, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different football coaches now. And there was a different energy that coalesced very quickly around Cignetti in that first offseason. And that's not why I picked him to win 8 games. There were some other considerations, quarterback play, Cignetti's track record, et cetera. But there was, very similar to Terry Hepner, I guess it's probably the best comparison I can use in my own experience. And obviously what happens with Hepner is ultimately very sad. But there was sort of this sight unseen belief that almost surprised me, given the way the fan base had just kind of sort of lost itself in apathy at the end of the Tom Allen era, just how quickly everyone kind of got on board with Curt Cignetti. And I think, again, with the benefit of hindsight, it's easy to say that, but with the benefit of hindsight, it's also easy to recognize why Cignetti said and did some of those things he said and did, and the ultimate impact it had on his fan base and his program.
Besides winning, what has he done so well?
I mean, the thing I'd say, maybe more fundamentally than anything else, and sports writers hate talking in sort of intangibles because we like stuff that we can prove statistically and empirically and analytically.
Sure.
But if there's a quality that is sort of fundamental to the Cignetti teams, at least the ones that I have covered, that is universal: offense, defense, special teams, young and old, transfers and returning players, 2024, 2025. It is his ability to keep his team focused. Everyone talks about next play, next practice, next opponent, etc. But his ability to keep his team just sort of laser focused on what comes next. They've played, the games that they've lost since he's been here, I think even he would tell you they deserve to lose. And they played some games that maybe in the moment looked a little bit, catchy. Like you think about Iowa last year, you're not really sure what that win means. Well, then Iowa goes on to win 9 games, almost beats Oregon at home. Beats Vanderbilt in I think it was the Gator Bowl. I can't remember which Florida Bowl game it was. The Penn State game looks a little bit sort of nervy, but then Penn State, I think, wins its last 5 games, wins its bowl game, and puts a bunch of dudes in the NFL draft. And you're sort of reminded, okay, actually, that was just maybe a good team kind of finding its feet again. They've never had a real trap game. They've never had a game that you would look at and say they weren't ready for this, or they were too distracted, or their minds were elsewhere, or anything like that. His ability to keep his team focused and always forward is really, I think, the most sort of like it is the base of the secret Cignetti sauce. And there's other things too. Obviously, his ability to build an offense around a quarterback and how to adapt in transfers. I think his time in Division II really helped him sort of understand how to evaluate and ultimately, the phrase we would use now probably in the NIL era is value players. There's other aspects to it, but the most fundamental thing is his teams are just always focused, always sharp, always prepared. They just never seem to lose that sort of eye forward on whatever the next challenge is.
Zach Osterman covers Indiana Hoosiers football for the Indianapolis Star. He joins us here on X's and Bros as we preview the Hoosiers for the 2027 college football season. There's a difference. You mentioned the things that writers and broadcasters really like to talk about, the difference between being hunted and being the hunter. There's no question they are now the hunted. How do things change, do you think, for this team, knowing that it's a different expectation and different when you line up on a night-to-night basis against the opposition?
Yeah, I mean, that is the question that, on the one hand, I would say my impression is it doesn't bother this team very much. There are still a lot of, people have asked me why Indiana's ranked outside the top 5 in the preseason polls. And one thing I say is I'm not sure, because we can't keep track of all 136 rosters, all the time, 12 months out of the year, forever and I'm not sure how many people realize that despite the fact that they lost, more than a dozen dudes to the NFL last year, they still have quite a bit of returning production back. They've got a lot of guys back that have underpinned the success of the last 2 years, both lines of scrimmage, skill groups, linebacker, safety, corner, even special teams. Like there's a lot of sort of leadership and sort of time on task, institutional knowledge left on this roster that I think, again, maintains sort of that forward focus and isn't necessarily concerned with the idea of how, perceptions have shifted or expectations have shifted. But I will also say, in the way that this is all kind of a new evolution for IU football, there is an extent to which we can't know the answer to that question until we see them play. I know the non-conference is not that impressive, but we see them open with Northwestern on Friday night. We see them at Nebraska. We see how they handle what I think we can all recognize are probably going to be pretty bright lights for the Ohio State game and things like that. There is an extent to which we can sort of look at it, and we can look at sort of past behavior and things like that. And we can say, again, Cignetti, his coaches, his players, they seem to just have this unnatural ability to not lose focus on what's in front of them. But there is an extent to which, because Indiana's truly never been here before, we kind of have to see it to know.
What will they miss with Fernando Mendoza now being in Las Vegas, and how have they replaced him to what you would consider satisfactory status? Yeah,
it's interesting because I feel like as the sort of Fernando Mendoza, Josh Hoover question has evolved, I think it's a little bit less about sort of what Hoover is relative to Fernando Mendoza, and a little bit more what Josh Hoover is relative to what he was a year ago as a quarterback. And I say that because a lot of the same conversations we're having about Josh Hoover now, we were having in a similar way about Fernando Mendoza a year ago. He came to Indiana. There was some NFL buzz around him, but not to the level of he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. He's perceived as a franchise guy. He was replacing a quarterback in Curtis Rourke, who'd set records at Indiana, who'd led Indiana to the playoffs, who'd had this remarkable sort of single season that we only found out later he did on a torn ACL. And we kind of looked at Fernando Mendoza and we said, there's some really good progression from sort of redshirt freshman to redshirt sophomore year at Cal, but there were also some, Mendoza used this phrase himself, sort of bad habits he had to break. There was this need to kind of learn to sort of trust that the line in front of him, the skilled guys around him, the scheme he was playing in was going to put him in a position where he didn't have to put it all on his shoulders. That you could see there were times at Cal where maybe he forced things because he thought, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. We're not going to win this game. He didn't have to do that at Indiana. And it did take him about a month of starts, I think, to really get to a place where he could say, I won't force this. I'll let that come to me. I'm going to avoid these mistakes. Again, the bad habits line was one that he used a lot after the Iowa win. And so much of that conversation in a different way, because obviously Hoover's, got more time on task. He's played at the power forward level. He's the nation's leading returning passer, et cetera. But if you want to go back to those conversations in the spring about the turnover issues and maybe some of the mistakes that he made at TCU, I think it's a lot of the same sort of progression. If you're going from a place where maybe you don't have to do so much of it yourself as a quarterback, where maybe you don't have to force some of those throws, you don't have to kind of play on the edge quite as much. And TCU is not a bad program. They've been to back-to-back bowl games, but you have more around you that can sort of pick up the slack and let you just be part of the machine. I think the question is really more about, as it was with Fernando Mendoza a year ago, where is Josh Hoover relative to what he was 12 months ago as a quarterback, and even 6-7 months ago as a quarterback when, he really kind of ramped up off-season training at Indiana, because what he's got around him and therefore what he's going to be asked to do here is different than what it was in Fort Worth.
For sure. And if he's asked to pass more, at least he can do it. 3,500 yards a year ago with 29 touchdowns. The year before, almost 4,000 yards and 27 touchdowns. You had mentioned the schedule, and I get it because no one's going to turn the page with North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky. But the Hoosiers do have 4 games on their schedule against teams that finished in the top 25 a year ago. I don't believe, this is just my personal opinion, if I'm an athletic director, I'm a head coach, I'm not scheduling things for television at the beginning of my season when I have a Big Ten title to win and trying to reach the college football playoffs. Maybe it changes a little bit because of the format now. But what's Curt Cignetti's reaction to the people who want to complain constantly about his weaker non-conference schedule?
Yeah, I don't think I'm putting words in his mouth by saying I just don't think he cares. And it's funny because, listen, he's endorsed this, like he's supported this, but this was kind of a philosophy that Indiana adopted before he got to IU. They bought out of the last 2 games of a series with Louisville. They dropped a game against UConn. And then obviously I think last year was when they bought out of the series with Virginia. But they did this at a time when, and I'm not trying to be flippant, I genuinely, it does seem so long ago in some ways, when Indiana was just trying to find a way to pave the road to 6 or 7 wins more comfortably every year. And they were just saying, the Big Ten had gotten rid of the Power 4 non-conference scheduling requirement. The playoff had expanded. Conference schedules had expanded. And Indiana just kind of looked at it and said, number one, we could certainly use the extra home game every year just from a revenue perspective. But number 2, we have just got to find a way to get to give ourselves a chance to get a little bit more competitive footing. And if that means buying out of some of these non-conference series that we scheduled when the conference told us we had to, and picking up some games that are going to be easier to win, we'll take it. At the time, I don't think anybody, at the time, nobody outside sort of, fan arguments on social media was criticizing Indiana for this. Frankly, I think a lot of people were saying, yeah, that kind of makes sense. If you're Indiana, why are you straining yourself when you just need to find a way to win some games? Then it sort of reverses itself so dramatically, so quickly. And again, Curt Cignetti has kind of endorsed this. It's not like he's pushed back on it. And I think anybody who wants to sort of complain, whether it's an IU fan or someone else, someone outside the IU bubble, about IU's non-conference schedule, I think there's some fair complaints there. But I think what Curt Cignetti would say ultimately is it hasn't stopped him from making the playoffs. It hasn't stopped him from contending for and winning a Big Ten title, a Rose Bowl, a national championship. And of course, there's also the expectation I think we all have that at some point we're going to get back to like a Big Ten SEC series or something like that. So why load up your schedule now with a bunch of games you're going to want to cancel in 5 years anyway? But I think fundamentally, I don't think he's ever cared. And I think certainly after what Indiana accomplished last season, I think you would point to that and say, what on earth kind of difference did it make?
Amen to that. And he shouldn't care. He's got to do what's best for his program. Final thought from you. Who will be the biggest threat to Indiana's Big Ten crown this year, do you think, and why?
That's a good question because, I mean, it's like Ohio State's schedule is just quietly brutal. I don't know if people like really appreciate like just how much they got to do both in and out of conference. I mean, I do think Oregon, obviously you lose both coordinators, but if I'm not mistaken, both hires were basically internal promotions, so there's going to be a lot of continuity there. You know, that was the way last season ended for Oregon, obviously against Indiana in the Peach Bowl. I think a bit of a misnomer. They were really undermanned in that game, and both of those coordinators had been trying to work two jobs at the same time for a month. Like that, there was a lot that kind of stacked up on Dan Lanning ahead of that Peach Bowl. And then you consider the travel. They had to fly to the the Orange Bowl, then back to Oregon, then to the Peach Bowl. I do think maybe, I mean, I don't want to say we're undervaluing Oregon because I think everybody's got them in and around the top five. Everybody thinks they're going to go to the playoffs again. Everybody thinks they can win a national title. But I think the way that last season ended maybe has just sort of soured the taste on Oregon enough that we're not fully sort of appreciating sort of what they're capable of. Like, I think Ohio State may be the most talented team in the conference, but they've also got to play just a potentially brutal schedule. Oregon doesn't have an easy schedule, but I do suspect that Oregon maybe will take some steps forward and, again, maintain some continuity, same quarterback, same systems, internal hires, a lot of athletes around Dante Moore for another year. I would say, you know, I turned in my schedule predictions last week. I had Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, and I had them playing Oregon. So I guess I have to pick the Ducks.
Good enough. Yeah. I get the whole Ohio State schedule thing because they play Texas, but they play Ball State, who finished 4-8, and Kent State, who finished 5-7 last year. That's part of their non-conference too. But I get the Big Ten.
Iowa.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Indiana. I mean, like,
yeah, but that's the Big Ten. What's the Big Ten? We're talking about non-conference here. They're playing Texas, which is a legitimate. They played them a year ago. I'm just saying, it kind of is supportive of what Kurt Cignetti's belief is too in the non-conference. It's okay to have one of those marquee games. You need your teams to ramp up a little bit for a regular season. It helps to play some of the mid-majors, and quite honestly, it helps mid-major football because they need the money. So I'm all for it. I have no issue with it whatsoever. Zach, great insight, man. I really appreciate it. Have a great season. Enjoy it. And please, all the best to the folks there in Bloomington, especially my good friend Don, who's one of the best there is. Okay? Talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Don Fisher's unbelievable. All right, that's Zach Osterman joining us here on X's and Bros. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Osterman, ZACH. He writes for the Indianapolis Star, and he'll give you some really good takes, not just on Indiana, but also on the Big Ten in general. That's not a knock, by the way, on Ohio State. I have no problem with Ohio State's schedule whatsoever. I just went, oh, my God, it's a brutal schedule. It's a brutal schedule because the Big Ten is brutal. The Big Ten's got some really good teams, right? But you're playing two of your three non-conference games are against teams from, and I'm a MAC guy, are from Mid-American Conference teams, and neither one of them are really good or expected to be all that good this year. Our thanks to Zach Osterman, our thanks to Isaac Tesla, our thanks to Brett Hayes, and our thanks to you for giving us some of your time on a Tullymore Thursday, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Tomorrow morning, Jim Miller is in from 6 until 9. You don't want to miss that. The best football talk you will hear all year long. Don't forget the huge show later on today at 3 here on these great station affiliates. Thanks for watching.
Get ready for the hottest Saturdays of the summer at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Now through August, we're dropping over $1 million in free play. Every hour from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 10 winners score $600 in free play. $1 Million Summer is back, so don't miss your shot at big summer wins. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
In the Den. It's a new day to celebrate